Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Chilltown Hoops. I'm your host, Jermaine. The youngsters call me OG. My friends call me J-Dub. Let's get to it. You know, in the regular season is where you make your name. You know, we saw what Tracy McGrady did with that ridiculous comeback with, down by 10 points in under a minute and came back and won the game. That was incredible. Karl Malone scoring 56 on AC Green because AC Green got voted onto the All-Star as a starter before him. You know, the regular season is where you make your name. You know, LeBron James going for 60 against Charlotte. Carmelo Anthony going for 61 in the Garden. That's where you make your name. The playoffs is where you elevate that. You make your name in the regular season, but in the playoffs is where you elevate the myth of whoever you are. You elevate the legend of who you are. And you elevate that by raising your play, by raising your game, right? You know, I watched Jordan raise his game and lead the playoffs in scoring and in steals. He went from averaging 32 a game to averaging 35 a game in the playoffs. He went from getting 2 steals a game to 4 steals a game. He went from being the best 2 guard in the game to the best player in the game. I watched him average 41 a game in the NBA Finals, which is still a record to this day. 30 years later, almost 30 years later, it's still a record to this day. I watched him average 41 a game in the Finals. This is where your game, this is where the myth of you, the legend of you, gets raised. You know, I watched LeBron James, as good as he was in the regular season, I watched him elevate his game in the playoffs. You know, I watched him average 34 and 10 against the Golden State Warriors in the finals. He averages 27 a game for his career, right? He averages 27 a game for his career. He goes from that to 34 a game in the finals. You know, the great ones elevate their games. I watched Jerry West go from have a 4-year stretch where he went 34, 6 and 5 in the playoffs, including averaging almost 40 a game in the NBA Finals in 1969. You know, the great ones, Hakeem Olajuwon. You know, Olajuwon had a 4-year stretch where he went 28, 10, and 3 blocks. The great ones elevate their games, and that's what adds to the legend of who they are. And that's why we talk about these guys the way we talk about them. Now, there are guys that we don't talk about nearly as much. And the reason why we don't talk about them because they're not a lot of flash, they're not really flamboyant. So, because of that, you know, we don't really talk too much about them. But there is one guy that, you know, we need to start talking about more in the playoffs. And that's Jimmy Butler. We really need to start talking more about Jimmy Butler in the playoffs. You know, we're talking about a dude who every year he's gotten better in the playoffs. I mean, he took that Minnesota team to the playoffs in the 18-19 season. All right? This is a team that hadn't been to the playoffs in almost 15 years when he took them to the playoffs. And they've been back to the playoffs one time since then. You know, he averaged 22 a game, and they lost in the conference semifinals in Game 7 on a buzzer beater in overtime, courtesy of Kawhi Leonard hitting a fall away. You know, in the 2020 playoffs, he averaged 22 a game, he averaged 24 in the finals. This season right here, he's got four 30-point games on the road. So as difficult as it is to play in the playoffs is enough. But to go on the road and do what he's been doing is even more difficult. And it's a testament to who Jimmy Butler is. Right? He's averaging 28 a game, almost 29 a game in these playoffs. He averaged 28 a game against Philadelphia. And the reason why we don't talk nearly as much about Jimmy Butler is because he's not a super duper athlete. He doesn't have an extra crispy handle. You know, he's not blowing your doors off with a lot of stuff offensively. But we're talking about a guy who is routinely on the All-NBA team. He's been an All-League defender multiple times. And this has established him going to the Miami Heat in the conference finals for the second time in 3 years on the strength of Butler, by the way, who, I'll ask you guys, is Bam Adebayo a top 20 player in the NBA? I'm having a difficult time seeing Bam as a top 20 player. Maybe a top 25, maybe a top 30 player, but a top 20 player. So Jimmy Butler is taking this team with arguably no top 20 players on the team to the Eastern Conference Finals twice in 3 years. So what does that say about buckets? Well, one of the things it says is that I'm a legit number one on a contender. I'm absolutely that. I can get us there. There are not a lot of guys who can say that they could get us there. I can say that because I've proven it more than once, more than twice, more than once, more than twice. I've proven that I can get us there. And Jimmy Butler needs to be recognized more as one of the better players in the game than just as a ho-hum and Miami isn't, it's the culture in Miami. Yeah, absolutely, it's the culture in Miami. No question about that. But with that being said, he adds to that culture with who he is. He's perfect for who they are. No doubt about that, he's perfect for who they are. He gives them that toughness that they need. He gives them that grit. He gives them all of that they don't have. Absolutely, he gives them that. And I wasn't a huge Jimmy Butler fan, but I have to recognize his greatness in the playoffs. And I have to stand on the notion that I am a legit number one on a championship contender. I haven't proven yet that I can get us over the hump to win the NBA championship, but I've proven that I can get us there. I have proven that. And I think that he could continue to do that as long as he stays healthy. And respect to Jimmy Butler, absolutely. Absolutely respect to Jimmy Butler. Another team that I need to show some respect to, and that's the Dallas Mavericks. I had Phoenix mopping the floor with them. I did. I had Phoenix beating. After those first two games, I had Phoenix dominating them. I didn't think this series would go past 5 games. But what I didn't factor in is, I didn't factor in Chris Paul turning the basketball over 14 times in the 3 games that they've played in Dallas. Not sure how your math worked, man, but that's almost 5 turnovers a game. We can't win with him turning the basketball over at that rate. We can't. Take away from the fact that he's not nearly as productive offensively or defensively. I thought he did a solid job when he's playing against Brunson, when he's matched up against Brunson. I thought he did a solid job against him, but his ability to turn the basketball over, that's been the Achilles heel of the Phoenix Suns, because they go as he goes. He's their primary ball handler. He's their table setter. He's the guy that gets them going both offensively and defensively. And when he's not playing, they're not playing. He's absolutely their tone setter. Now, you already know how I feel about Ayton, and when Ayton comes out with the energy that he comes out with, they play at a different level because the game is more wide open. But their defensive schemes which have not been adjusted, has still been a problem. Where you get these switches, where you get Luka matched up on DeAndre Ayton. I really don't like that matchup, but I thought that they did a good job on Luka in the last couple of games. I think 5 for 18 in the second half. Before last night, 5 for 18 in the second half, 8 for 24 on the long ball in the second half in the last two games. So they've been doing a pretty good job on Luka in the second half particularly. But Chris Paul is the difference in this series. His ability to take care of the basketball, his ability to get them going both on the offensive and defensive end of the floor is going to be the difference in them winning and losing this series. No doubt about it. So I still think that they win the series in 7. I think that Dallas is going to have a difficult time beating them. in 7, but stranger things have happened because I've seen Chris Paul go to pieces in the playoffs. I've seen that happen, whether he's gotten hurt or he's underperformed. I've seen that from him. So I've also seen him have great games. Well, I saw him last year go off for 35 in the closeout game against Denver. I've seen that. I've seen that before. So I'm not sure what Chris Paul I'm going to get, but you definitely need to see the better Chris Paul. Otherwise, my prediction for them being in the NBA Finals is going to go horribly wrong. No doubt about that. I'm really interested to see. I had the Bucks picked in 6. I wasn't sure if they could beat Boston without Middleton. I just wasn't sure because, I mean, like I said, that's 20 a game out of the lineup. That's another playmaker. That's another ball handler. That's another shooter that they severely miss. Well, you've had a lot of guys step up defensively, and not just step up defensively. These guys, they don't slow down. They just keep going, and they have all the momentum going home. All the momentum going home. I had them to pick. I picked them in 6. I'm still sticking with that. Like I said, the great players, they elevate that myth. They elevate the legend of who they are in the playoffs. You know, Giannis is averaging 34 a game against the Celtics. He's averaging 31 a game in the playoffs. He averaged almost 30 a game this season. It's gone up. Just like James, like LeBron James when he was in the playoffs. His scoring average, rebounding, that stuff went up in the playoffs. Giannis, his scoring average, his rebounding, it went up in the playoffs. And that's what elevates the legend of you. That's what puts you in a different class when you're doing it when it matters the most. And Giannis is doing it when it matters the most. I still stand on it. I think he's the best player in the game. And I stand on that. I felt like that he was the best player in the game coming into this season. And it was an accumulation of things. It wasn't just because they won the NBA Finals. We're talking about a guy who had won back-to-back league MVPs, then won a Defensive Player of the Year. So it was obvious that he was on his way. And then when he won the NBA Finals, when his team won the NBA Finals and he won the Finals MVP, that just stamped it. It wasn't just because of that. That just solidified it. That was the one thing that he needed to get pushed over the hump. Because he was already on his way to being there. It wasn't just because he did that, but that helped elevate him to becoming the best player in the game. And I stand on that. I think he's the best player in the game. I still think that the winner of this series represents the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. I think that the Milwaukee Bucks are going to win the NBA championship again. And I stand on that. So that's what's going on today. But as long as you guys are going to be here, I'm going to be here. So until then, I'll see you guys soon. Take it light, but take it.